From the savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic to Cameroon invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit and in the physical. We all long for such a place to call home, and we can make it happen by God's grace.
Our local government areas and counties, are you preparing? Do you have an ethics commission in your local government areas, counties to serve as a moral compass for you? Do you have a copy of the Ambazonia Ethics Code and the Constitution?
All arms of government, do you have an ethics agency? Departments of DSS, HSS, Communications and IT, Education, DHACM, DFA and DEINR. Do you have ethics agency to serve as a moral compass for your departments?
Ambazonians, you need to know your rights by reading the Ethics Code and the Constitution.
Shame unethical behavior and reward good behavior in your communities. Hold leaders accountable. Be the watchdog of your communities and governments. See something, say something.
The church, you are the main research center of moral principles with the responsibility of moralizing the society. How effective are you outside the church building?
Maya Angelou said, when you know better, then you do better. Ambazonians, watch ethics for an emerging Ambazonia every Friday at 10 p.m. Amba time.
Exclusively on ABC Amba TV. Stay tuned. may work from dusk to dawn, but a woman's work is never done. Undoubtedly, moms deserve to be celebrated because they are always putting others ahead of themselves. Mother's Day is the perfect opportunity to stop and reflect on all of her hard work.
Of course, Mother's Day isn't just a day for celebrating your own mother. It's a day for honoring all women in your life who support and nurture you, from your sister to your grandmother. It's also a chance to wish a happy Mother's Day to the mothers in Ambazonia who are bearing the brunt of the war.
Sometimes, the best way to thank Mother Ambazonia is with a simple and heartfelt message. Not all of us can write like Shakespeare, and it can be difficult to put our feelings into words.
That's why we're calling on all women, men, old, young to say Happy Mother's Day by getting a copy of the book Echoes of Women's Tears.
Echoes of Women's Tears is one platform where the Ambazonian woman gets some closure from the pain of losing their own in the senseless war.
Echoes of Women's Tears, a 21st century genocide in the former British Southern Cameroons. Get your copy today.
The Ambazonian mother, pains in thorns, cries out blood as she sees her own maimed and wasted. Her joy of childbirth turns out bloody. While we may not be able to feel the weight of the pain of what the Ambazonian mother is carrying all through, we do know that recognizing her this day would mean a lot of hope for her. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal, love leaves a memory no one can steal. For our love for you, Mama, we will beat Cameroon out of Ambazonia. We will win the war. Sooner than later your tears of agony will suddenly become tears of melody. Happy Mother's Day, Mother Ambazonia.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
From the Savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic to Cameroon invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit and in the physical. We all long for such a place to call home, and we can make it happen by God's grace.
Our local government areas and counties, are you preparing? Do you have an ethics commission in your local government areas, counties to serve as a moral compass for you? Do you have a copy of the Ambazonia Ethics Code and the Constitution?
All arms of government, do you have an ethics agency? Departments of DSS, HSS, Communications and IT, Education, DHACM, DFA and DEINR. Do you have ethics agency to serve as a moral compass for your departments?
Ambazonians, you need to know your rights by reading the Ethics Code and the Constitution.
Shame unethical behavior and reward good behavior in your communities. Hold leaders accountable. Be the watchdog of your communities and governments. See something, say something.
The church, you are the main research center of moral principles with the responsibility of moralizing the society. How effective are you outside the church building?
Maya Angelou said, when you know better, then you do better. Ambazonians watch ethics for an emerging Ambazonia every Friday at 10 p.m. Amba time.
Exclusively on ABC Amba TV. Stay tuned. Walk from dusk to dawn, but a woman's work is never done. Undoubtedly, moms deserve to be celebrated because they are always putting others ahead of themselves. Mother's Day is the perfect opportunity to stop and reflect on all of her hard work. Of course, Mother's Day isn't just a day for celebrating your own mother. It's a day for honoring all women in your life who support and nurture you, from your sister to your grandmother. It's also a chance to wish a happy Mother's Day to the mothers in Ambazonia who are bearing the brunt of the war. Sometimes, the best way to thank Mother Ambazonia is with a simple and heartfelt message. Not all of us can write like Shakespeare, and it can be difficult to put our feelings into words. That's why we're calling on all women, men, old, young to say Happy Mother's Day by getting a copy of the book Echoes of Women's Tears. Echoes of Women's Tears is one platform where the Ambazonian woman gets some closure from the pain of losing their own in the senseless war. Echoes of Women's Tears, a 21st century genocide in the former British Southern Cameroons. Get your copy today.
The Ambazonian mother, pains in thorns, cries out blood as she sees her own maimed and wasted. Her joy of childbirth turns out bloody. While we may not be able to feel the weight of the pain of what the Ambazonian mother is carrying all through, we do know that recognizing her this day would mean a lot of hope for her. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal, love leaves a memory no one can steal. For our love for you, Mama, we will beat Cameroon out of Ambazonia. We will win the war. Sooner than later your tears of agony will suddenly become tears of melody. Happy Mother's Day, Mother Ambazonia.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. We begin the week with an exclusive, the 20th May debacle in Ambazonia. From neighboring La Republique du Cameroon, Thievery Estate Cyrus Ngo tried to steal 163 million francs CFA from the accounts of the port of Douala. Documents. Ambazonian activist Uchida Atundo Nelson Uchiba, also known as UN, cautions partners of the crime scene in Ambazonia with an article he captions, "My sincere advice to Britain, France and La Republique du Cameroon regarding Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia." Amazing and interested. What's happening in the world today? What's happening in Africa? Who is the piper? In tonight's Undaunted, we will dig into all of that. Let me quickly remind you, we're back from an exciting week, an epoch-thrilling moment, a week that history was made. Ambazonians will never forget those moments with Pa Augustine Ndangam, Professor Bridget Tabo, Dr. Winnie Lubati, Dr. Frederick Lubati, Dr. Patience Abiedu, Barrister Ghana Valentine, Nijo, Pastor Commando, and to crown it all up, the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. Ambazonians will never forget those days from 16th to 20th May 2022 when their history was presented and broadcasted to the entire world with so much clarity and specificity. After the conference, you will agree with us that the nation of Ambazonia should not perish because they lack knowledge. It was a success because you Ambazonians made it so. We will give you a recap of the Undaunted ABC Amba News Conference in a jiffy, but first, let's get the prime headlines.
Prime headlines. Last week, for Ambazonia was history made as Ambazonian researchers, historians, and patriots examined it with the international community with clarity and specificity like never before. La République du Cameroon in trouble as Russia says conflict in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia will be resolved at the negotiating table. Of the 40 bike riders arrested in Ngop, 24 arrives Bamenda prison. Activist UN cautions La République du Cameroon in an article he captions, "My sincere advice to Britain, France, and La République du Cameroon regarding southern Cameroon's Ambazonia." The former Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Chris Anu, lies as always on camera as he begs funds from Ambazonia to pay his lawyers with the pretext of raising funds for ABS, and his then deputy, Ngwabe, advises Ambazonia to become another South Sudan post-independence. Shocking. US President Joe Biden has warned China is flirting with danger over Taiwan and vowed to intervene militarily to protect the island if it is attacked. Ethiopia arrests thousands including ex-army commanders. Manchester City retained their Premier League in extraordinary circumstances after coming from 2 goals down to beat Aston Villa 3-2 at the Etihad Stadium.
Jonfu Asangwafo IV is now phone of Mancun. That's where we begin the full Undaunted briefings, analysis and commentaries for tonight. I am Oni Opmala and I will be doing so with my co-anchor, Stir Smart. Good evening, Stir. How are you doing today?
Good evening, Oi. I'm very well, thank you. Once again, viewers, fellow Ambazonians, good evening. As Onyi highlighted, Jonfu Asa Ngwafo IV replaces the CPDM paramount phone of Mancon. His Royal Highness Phone Ngwafo III declared missing. The CPDM phone disappeared at the age of 97.
Ngwafo III was a member of the West Cameroon Parliament from 1962 to 1988. Phone Ngwafo III, till his demise, was the 21st National Vice President of the ruling CPDM party. He was the 20th phone of the Mancon people enthroned in 1959 and reigned for over 60 years.
It is worthy to mention many rightful thinking persons in Ambazonia are praying that Jonfu Asa Ngwafo IV will not be a sellout like his father, His Royal Highness Phone Ngwafo III, who betrayed Southern Cameroonians by embracing and dining with the enemy, La République du Cameroon, indiscriminately.
In some of his pictures, one can see His Royal Highness Phone Ngwafo III, contrary to all expectation and tradition, shaking hands with Paul Biya, a colonial genocidal dictator who lied in Bamenda in 1983 that he was going to personally supervise the Ring Road. Today, 40 years after, he had long forgotten about the Ring Road.
Disgrace. Disgrace. Before now, Jonfu Asa Ngwafo III was the principal of a technical college in Bamenda. The hope of many is that he will restore some dignity to the customs and traditions of the people of Mankon by making a difference and staying clear of Yaoundé's 30 years of politics.
Indeed. Now let's watch some excerpts of the so-called 20th May celebration. When we come back, we'll move on with the news. Niger, the Director of Resource Mobilization, and Mr. Tar Party King, our news director, are here to make some commentaries. I want to confirm that they can hear me loud and clear.
And Lady Star, greetings from this end.
All right, Nijo, you're welcome. Now, you have just watched the so-called 20th May La Republic celebration. We can say at this point that they are struggling, or they were struggling to celebrate. What do you think from the video you just watched?
Please, I think we need another word. If we're describing the scenes of just sitting there as celebrate, then I'm probably in a different world. I would rather think that's a mourning ceremony or a burial ceremony of some military personnel. It's a pity that we have to come and sit here and spend our time talking about those things, but what have we got to do? It's sad that I have an opportunity on ABC, and instead of lowering the prices to my loyal ARFs, I have to be looking at this charade of misfits, unprofessionals, and people who think that they can deceive us, even even when the whole world is against them. One of the things that I like with the English language is that it has a saying that the chickens are coming home to roast. you know, when you spend your time doing all the evil things, and eventually you will have to. They come out and this question starts standing in front of you, and people are asking you, "You said that. You said that. What is going on? What's going on?" This it's a pity that the government of the French Cameroon are so sluggish, are so stubborn, are so they consider that the rest of the world thinks like them, and so whatever they're doing, they feel that it is right to do. This is an event that they could have, with all honesty, cancelled, considering that we, when I say we, Ambazonians and the Arabs, all our information has been out there, just like they did for the president elections, just like they did for all their previous elections, and when they've gone round and they've imposed mayors and members of parliament to us. They think that when we say, they can use the same analogy, pretend that the 20th May is holding and everything is normal. And I mean, these are people who have no regard for protocol, no regard for common sense. All they think about is pretend and pretend and pretend. Question is, how long are they going to continue to pretend?
All right.
Over to you.
Yeah, Mr. Tai, you have something there to say.
Well, the video to me is some kind of comedy. Perhaps I should just get into the details of some shots you saw. You saw some three officials marching in Bowie County, precisely at Jakiri. What was happening there with maybe the DO or this, the colonial DO actually watching? It's quite disgraceful. It's so disgraceful. That video we just watched is what you can also interpret as Cameroon's denial to accept defeat. Cameroon never believed that. Um, the Bia's government never believed that anyone could ever confront them or contend with them. No, the Cameroons have been always in a way that everything Yaoundé says, they even says that quand Yaoundé esprit, esprit, ça veut dire que la nation va bien. What are they saying there in English? Is that when Yaoundé breathes, the nation is good. So for the 5 into 6 years now, the peoples of the former British Southern Cameroons, today Ambazonia, have proven to them that they have to change that narrative. And they are just in denial. When they do things like that, put people's life on arm's way, make them victims, make them military targets, it's just to tell the world, listen, we still have control. It's a way of escaping the negotiation table, but that's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And you find that even coup plotters are taking advantage of things like that to make certain claims. It is true. There was a nationwide boycott of the 20th May. The whatever purported celebration was a charade. There are other places in Libya, some few places where you had some semblance of celebration, not with the ambience that the day will obviously carry. And we are also told that in whom some corrupt chiefs, CPDM chiefs there, caused their people to go out and do some celebration. But that is not the way it used to be when we were growing up. Nijo has taught for long. He's a journalist. Nijo will tell you that when we're growing up, they had brainwashed us to believe that, okay, 20th May is a national day, And so coming towards 20th May was a national celebration. If your parents didn't buy for you as a primary school or secondary school student, a white canvas is a problem. But now, Ambazonians are not celebrating. Of course, I was speaking to Ambazonians in Nigeria that came to Nigeria for business. They were stuck there for almost a week because they just knew, not because of any order anyone gave to them. They just knew that, listen, this is not a time to go into the territory of Ambazonia because it's not safe. So it's just a mess. It's a lot. Even Yaoundé knows that they just made a mockery of themselves with that thing they call celebrations.
All right.
Thank you
Mr.
again.
Tar. All right, Mr. Tar. That was a very wonderful analysis there. I could relate to the idea of the celebration being a joke indeed with those videos we just watched now. Well, moving on to something else, Mr. Tar and Nijo, the Undaunted newsroom got some excerpts which we think you should watch and also analyze. Just watch.
Thank you.
Neutral, not always Amba. It was never the case. I'm telling you, Sako would have sold this struggle to the Musongas, to the Dion Ngutes, to the Fako elite. This thing would have been long over. He was presiding over something that was dead, that many people were not seeing. He was dead. Or else, how do you explain that in Fako for years, nothing was happening in Fako? And how can we say we are at war? And the county that matters the most, Fako, is doing nothing. Life is just going on as normal. And other people are in other parts of Ambazonia, in Bamenda, in the BLM, locked down, and Sako's own Fako is booming with life, with AFCON, with Chan, with the mountain race, with 11 February. Think about that. Imagine that. He had sold this struggle, ladies and gentlemen, and he was only sitting in.
I'm sure I did not just watch that video for myself. You've seen it as well for yourself. What do you think about this?
Nijo, I think you should take the lead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Star, and your team. You guys are doing a very great job, and you have a lot of patience. I mean, to sit down and listen to that loud empty vessel, it takes a lot of patience, and I must commend you for that. What you're saying in that analogy, what he's trying to say there is give the dog a bad name, then you have a reason to kill it. As far as he is concerned, the speaker is concerned, it's not a name worth mentioning on our national TV. As far as the speaker is concerned, Sako is our president, and so everything that is happening around Fako is the responsibility of the president. Everything that is happening outside of Fako is the responsibility of the president. And so if the Ambazonian movement or the Ambazonian struggle or the Ambazonian revolution in the 12 other counties are successful, and Fako, because of his cosmopolitan nature, with the influx of Francophones from Douala and neighboring French towns to flood Fako, and because of the interests that they have there of the oil, the refinery, and all the economic activities there, the Francophones have a stronghold of Fako. And so our RFs, who are maintaining fire on home front, cannot stand fire with fire on these guys in Fako. That we know. And I'm not a strategist in the military issues, but I know that if you cannot match somebody by fire, withdraw tactically. Okay, let them have that. But you can hurt them in other areas. And this is exactly what, as far as I'm concerned, our RFs are doing. To focus on FACO, to say the revolution is dead because FACO is buoyant, you can say that to children who are 5-year-olds, because when those children get to 9, 10 years, they can ask you questions and say, but why is Bamenda locked down? Why is Mbengwi locked down? Why is Ndu? Why is Kumbu? Why is Indian? Why the other places locked down and you're focusing on FACO? Children will ask you that question. But our speaker feels that as long as they are concerned, people who think like him are concerned, all of the Ambazonian revolution should focus on what is happening in FACO, which is wrong. And every Ambazonian knows why FACO is what it is. Every Ambazonian knows what happened in FACO, the resources that this government has pumped into FACO that have been mischanneled, thanks to the members of the team that he belongs to, the speaker belongs to. They know how much money. If those Ambazonians who followed our CIC yesterday in the Menchum visit, he gave an analogy and gave figures of how much money was invested in FACO before Khan and how this money was swindled. And as Director of Resource Mobilization, I can tell you the plan B that the SACO government implemented in FACO. But the majority of the money, the majority of the funds that were generated to spend in FACO to counter the hosting of Khan was swindled by the team. And this is coming to sense now, because this is when this group started breaking away, because the amount of money, close to $60,000, that's a lot of money. And if a group of the people who are working with you as executive members can swindle that amount of money, that indicates that there is a lot of bad faith. But President Sako, being who he is, he used this, always got a plan B. He activated plan B, and the little action that took place in FACO was as the funds that were there for plan B, because all of plan A funds, the majority of it, all of it, not majority of it, all of it, as I said, close to $60,000 was swindled by this gang, this group of people who then metamorphosed into coup plotters. But all praises to our commander-in-chief for always having a plan B.
Yeah.
And we are where we are thanks to his wisdom. And please, when you have things to do, maybe spend your time watching a good movie to entertain yourself than listen to that empty vessel. Thank you.
We'll definitely
Now,
come back to
let me
more
react
videos
to
to watch.
that.
So you just also employ the same kind
Now,
of
let me
patience
react to that.
we've had, and also
A
go
moment,
through
let
the
me
next
react to
video.
that
But
very
that's
quickly.
after Mr. Tam must have aired his thought about this
Yeah.
particular
Definitely.
video as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, I want to react. I want to react to that very, very quickly. Nijo just mentioned some things I was about to say, and I'll put them, should I say, statistically, so that you get it. Number one, Mr. Arnold swindled, disappeared about 140,000 US dollars that was meant to make things happen in Faku and other counties. And just before his coup, or during in the course of his coup, he came, looked into the eyes of Ambazonians and told them it was a 419. My question I've always asked, that he's avoiding to answer, he has never answered, is when did it become a 419 or a fraud? Number two, the ASOM that works with him, the other person that is working with that same person, had close to 70,000 US dollars. Niger just confirmed that nothing was done. Now, when the president mentioned this yesterday, when he was planning to make sure that activities don't take place in that particular area of home front, this is what he did. Those coup plotters, the Mullah Edis, all of the friends of Chris Arnold, they are Bongwa Harrisons, all of those who connived, partnered, stole the money, embezzled, invested. Some are building houses in different nations in Africa, invested in other aspects in Europe, denied attending those meetings. They kept on saying that they have something to do. What was their game plan? And that's why we think that they're working for Cameroon, for French Cameroon. Their game plan was to sabotage, was to make situations to fail, and to give reasons why they want people to buy their idea that Dr. Sacco is not a good leader. You see, this man calls himself a journalist, but I tell you all the time, he's not coherent when it comes with facts. The year that I recorded, the year that Cameroon fears Ambazonia more than any other year, that's 2021, is the year that this so-called journalist wants to tell Ambazonians, maybe to say an agenda. He's trying to tell Ambazonians, listen, this year, Ambazonia didn't make it. That is what he's trying to say. But it doesn't fit logic. It doesn't fit history. History documented that the same year that this empty vessel is trying to say Dr. Sacco failed, that was the year that the military or the defense forces, loyal or answerable to Dr. Sacco, gave pride to Ambazonia. Cameroon has registered in their history that that same year, Ambazonia proved to them that they can man them like a nation withstanding another nation. He is avoiding to tell Ambazonians that at the time that the nation was supposed to focus more than ever before, that was the time that he decided to distract the entire nation with a lofty idea, with an assumption that he has the last say, with an assumption that he can change the plans on the ground. And that's why this platform is important, because we have to debunk such misinformation and disinformation. One challenge that I always want to give to this individual on air is for him to bring evidence. Now, when they started requesting for evidence to match the things he's talking about, he contacted a young guy in Germany, fabricate fake documents, and those fake documents are not working. Now, listen, the first thing he started saying, not Amba. This is the same person who is saying that Dr. Sacco would have sold the nation, but he is standing before limelight, before the world, to tell people, listen, you don't need to talk about Amba all the time. What he's trying to say, to justify the creation of his platform that is not representative of the people of Ambazonia, is that, listen, we must not necessarily be proud of Ambazonia of our colors as a strategy. No, it's a strategy that doesn't work. It will never work. If that's the objective of ABS, then there's no need for ABS, because you have Equinox, you have Canado, you have Vox Africa, you have many other sub-channels separate from CPDM that have the same objective. That's what they tell us. They want to be neutral per se. So this man is a flop of himself. He's a contradiction. He doesn't have a vision. He stumbled into a popularity when the nation of Ambazonia gave him a platform. He has never had it. And now, as he's approaching retirement, he thinks he's going to take advantage of that to create for himself a way. But Ambazonians will not fund his defense attorneys with a pretext that he wants to fund ABS. Ambazonians will not fund it. He said he had sponsors, right? Let him go for his sponsors. Ambazonians are not fools. Thank you very much. Perhaps you want to go to the next video.
Yeah, I was trying to talk to Niger to, just hold on a bit and observe and exercise some patience, because there are more videos for him to watch. So now we get another excerpt. So you watch it, and after watching, you agree with me that there is a lot you need to react to. So here is another video And just watch it, please.
For ABC, now you will hear them talking about some console out there. Ignore them. Forget about them. They don't know what they are talking about. I believe in integrity. I did not have to do this with any equipment here was bought new. And this is the equipment that was sent back to ABC, ladies and gentlemen.
So the past couple of months have shown us that there are two God-given rights that we need to protect when we are forming our constitution once we have achieved, our sovereignty. The first one for me is self-defense, meaning we should ensure that we as Amazonians have the right to bear arms to protect us from the tyranny of any government, any dictatorship, anybody trying to entrench themselves in power, anyone trying to supplant the power of our parliament. We need to have the right to bear arms to teach that tyrant a lesson. Then number two, it is the freedom of speech, where no government will interfere in the freedom of speech, interfere in public broadcasting of television programs of people who come on TV to educate us and to inform us of the misdeeds of politicians.
Right.
Those are the two rights that we Ambazonians, we need to make sure we protect. And
all right, there it is. Niger, please. What do you think?
Right. Again, it's clear. Paradoxically, he holds up a piece of paper and is telling Ambazonians, this is the computer that he returned to ABC. And he's telling Ambazonians, the piece of paper he holds in his hand is a computer he returned to ABC. That is a journalist, certified. What a disgrace. Besides, if that were a computer he returned to ABC, why was he returning it to ABC at that time? Did it belong to him? The question we should be asking ourselves is the gentleman we're watching, is he in his right senses? Is he in his right mind? What is his reason for being where he is? What is his reason for imposing himself as this? What is the title he calls himself? Secretary of Communication or something? A title that he absconded. Someone else was promoted to that position, is clinging onto the title. And he has the guts to say it on air that he is the spokesperson of the IG. And he calls it your IG. Which IG? And that is the same person who is saying in the same episode that he returned the computer that he is supposed to be using as the spokesperson to ABC. And you're telling me he understands what he's saying? I tell you clearly he doesn't, because he's got different intentions, different plans. He's got a plan that has failed, and like their sponsors, like La Republique, they don't want to accept failure. They don't want to accept the errors that they have made. And again, as I said earlier, the chickens are coming home to roost. The things that you do would come after you. If this young man, if this gentleman claims to be speaking on behalf of Ambazonians, then he is actually the wrong person doing the wrong thing to the wrong group of people, because no Ambazonian believes him. It's unheard of that a volunteer, we call ourselves volunteer, who has been withdrawn from the function that was assigned to him, but decides to cling on the title. And he creates his own platform and still takes the title along with him from the environment where that title belongs onto his own new platform. And you want us to spend our time discussing this? Let us watch a good movie for the evening.
Now, Nijo, let me quickly give some facts. Now, this man, that was brought to my attention. I want to thank some of the Amazonian activists. I don't watch him. They bring these videos to attention and
absolutely
justify the truth, because it's important that we react to things like this. And he enjoys it, but we cannot also totally avoid it because we understand the impact of misinformation and disinformation, what it has in generation. And that's why we find criminals like this individual are so concerned with and communication, even when their diction is free. This is the truth is that this man is not aware that we have recordings of him attesting that he's not going to console that was recently bought. Now, last year, let me give some fact. I want to respond. The person I'm interested to respond to is not him. I've responded to him a couple of times. It's Ngwambe, Dr. Ngwambe. But let me give some fact. Sometime last year, when we were about starting the news with Cynthia Williams, I saw it. You see the templates he's gallivanting with. I hope one day he will be honored or humble enough to tell the world that he didn't know what to do and I showed him what to do. I saw the templates he was using and I said, we cannot go on air. What he wanted to use and start as a news. I said, we can't use that to do that as a news. I took him and I said, this is what is good quality. I showed him how to get to it, how to use it. And he went there and he wouldn't even use the best of the qualities for ABC. And now he's using them for his platform. Well, I don't have any issue with that. But can he just be humble to let Ambazonians know that? I have proof of that. Those watching me now, even the Gwambeda supporting him, Marut, and a lot of people at the time, what he was about using was a terrible quality. So we rounded up that. We got the templates that we're using. Everybody appreciated the news. This is somebody who has never been wholehearted. Now, as he's fast approaching retirement, like I told you, and he wants Ambazonians to fund his retirement platform, he fabricates lies. We have recordings of him saying that he's not going to give back the console. Now he's saying that there is no console. Now, he plays what you want to call Wayo 419 with the former board chair of ABC, Gertrude Kisa, and the 3 months rent was paid for him, and he said he was breaking the lease of an environment that was for ABC. Now, I understand that there are chances, because he's now denying that they left the place. I understand that there are chances that he could have left that place, but he didn't leave immediately. If not, I'm challenging Mr. Arnold to present to us the lease and how and the lease contract and what was written down when he had to break the lease. Now, this is a man who fabricates his own. He lies to the board that 3 months rent was required to break the lease. And all of a sudden, we were made to understand he was using the same facility. Today, perhaps he's running away from it, and then he wants you to believe that, okay, he left immediately. That's fine. The United States of America will investigate. It is not a country, it's not a banana republic. They will investigate. Let me tell Amazonians why he's so eager, trying to lie to you about whatever project. This is not is his platform. And you should be a fool to fund a man's platform. This is a man. They want to tell you that we don't want people to communicate. But this is the man. At the time he was at the ABC, this is Nijo will tell you, he wouldn't give the platform for anyone else. It was him and him alone. If it was not him, he was not very good.
Yeah.
The TV was just him and nothing else. That's unfortunate. Let me quickly respond to Dr. Ngwambe's stupidity. You know, Dr. Ngwambe is a young man who has made statements. Nijo, you can also react to that just shortly. He has made very serious and irrational statements publicly a couple of times. And I've chosen for the first time to react to this. Ngwambe is telling us that Ambazonia should create a constitution that's post-independence that will allow people to have arms that will fight against government. What is he telling you? He's telling you he wants Ambazonia to become another South Sudan, post-independence. This is a man who has knowledge. And know what the Bible says, when you get knowledge, it says in all that getting, get understanding. He says wisdom is the principal thing. Ngwambe has proven that he has acquired some knowledge, but he lacks, he's void of understanding and wisdom. Even in the United States of America, that is not diplomacy, that is not democracy. Ngwambe is trying to paint a picture from the utterances he made that perhaps the president was a tyrant and was a dictator. Let me tell you who was a tyrant. Ngwambe has testified this with me in many discussions. The tyrant was Arnold. He will not grant a platform for anyone. I give an example. Ochiba Nelson and a couple of people that did not agree with him, he denied them ABC Amba TV. He will not allow them. This is a man who wants you to think that the president denied a platform. If the president was what he was, Anu wouldn't have had a platform today. And I want to cancel one lie before I conclude on this. Anu did not start ABC. He is purportedly telling the world he started ABC. That's not true. Go find out from Cuckoo Blinks. Find out from Dr. Luis. When SCBC was troubling ABC, was troubling the government, we know the story, I don't want to get to it. The cabinet sat and decided they're going to start a new platform. Because he was then Secretary of Communications, he had to head that exercise to investigate what satellite company was supposed to be used. At the time I was in the Cameroons, I was in Yaoundé. Dr. Liz, the chief of staff at the time, contacted me and told me they would like me to man a studio for ABC somewhere in Africa, in Ghana. And I'm like, no, I can't be in Africa because Cameroon was haunting me. Even when I left Cameroon and came to Nigeria, I was being haunted. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I suggested Pastor D in the UK to start, and Pastor D was the first person who started ABC. Now, when Pastor D could not meet up with what the requirements were, it was brought back to the United States in Washington. And Dexter Brains took it. When Dexter Brains had a lot of preoccupation and couldn't meet up, that is how Chris Anu started training himself how to use the platform for broadcasting and then started doing it. So it is a lie. He's a man who lies, and he assumes that we just get up one morning and forget everything. He didn't start ABC. He instead took the vision of ABC, narrowed it, and messed it up. Just for less than a year or two that I wasn't around, by the time I got back, it was a mess. He had dismissed Clister, the manager. He had neutralized the TV and made it a one-man anchor show for himself, a platform, and he has created ABS with it. So discard the folly of Anu and of Ngwambe. They're not talking sense. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Tar and Nijo, you will still have to hang on there. We'll definitely get back to you. But now let's move on with the news. Now, before we move on with the news, we perused through social media and got some reactions from Ambazonians activists on related issue. We will just highlight two articles from two of these activists.
The first which caught our attention was the article of activist Man for Truth Amba. He wrote, and I quote, "Dear Ambazonians, it is still fresh in our memory how Christopher Anu boasted he had some billionaire friends and that Dr. Sacco was the one hindering them from making huge contributions into the revolution. He said once President Samuel Ikome Sacco is out of the way, those his billionaire friends will come forward with their billions, and so shall millions and billions start flowing into revolution's coffers."
Man fought Truth Amber went further to say, shockingly enough, Chris Anu was seen yesterday at the top of the hour in his usual loud sounding voice and large mouth begging for Ambazonians to donate money to keep his ABS TV running. Recently, they came up with a fund drive project called ARF, still calling on Ambazonians to contribute money for what purpose? I don't know.
Manful Truth Amber questions, in quote, The question Amber queens like Rosalind Lem-Keshi, Milichi, Kone Adelia, Kemita Ashu, Ngabor Love, as well as distinguished Amber gentlemen like interim government watchman Thomas Edison, UN, Saint Intui, myself and other patriots are asking, where are all those billionaire friends Chris Anna said are hiding somewhere, waiting for President Sako to get out of the way before they show up?
Now he concludes, believe Christopher Anu at your own risk. He has no iota of shame left. If not, he will not come out to ask a dime from Ambazonians, not after he claims he has billionaire friends ready to pump millions into the revolution, if not billions.
Another article which caught our attention was that of activist Nelson Uchida. You know, Comrade UN is notable for his strong opinions sometimes.
Well, controversial sometimes too, but above all, very passionate in what he does for his people. He wrote to the actors of the crimes in Ambazonia with a caption, and I quoted, "My sincere advice to Britain, France, and La République du Cameroon regarding southern Cameroon's Ambazonia."
Utiba Nelson says, quote, "Politics is a game of interest. You all know that La République du Cameroon achieved her independence on the 1st of January 1960. Southern Cameroon was not part of it. African Union Constitutive Act Article 4B states that countries should maintain their boundaries as obtained at independence. La République du Cameroon has rectified it. There is no union treaty between the independent Republic du Cameroon and former British Southern Cameroons, and UN Resolution 1608 was never implemented."
Now he gets blunt, and he says, and I quote, "If you care about your business interests in southern Cameroon's Britain, France, La République du Cameroon should hastily recognize the independence of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia in order to negotiate business contracts with southern Cameroons on equal terms, or you lose all. For La République du Cameroon, it's better to have a friendly neighbor, Ambazonia, than an unfriendly neighbor. La République is hereby advised to withdraw all her colonial officers to her 1st January 1960 boundaries."
And this is how UN concluded. "You all should know that nothing under heaven shall kill Ambazonia nationalism. So either you're with us or against us. No amount of intimidation, genocide, threat, cosmetic solutions shall derail us. Self-determination is a universal human right. God bless Ambazonia."
Let's watch a video by Barrister Ashu on related talk and get on with commentaries. Tara and Nijo will make that reaction. I'm sure they are still there.
Distinguished members of the UN General Assembly, the members of the UN Security Council, the Secretary General of the UN, international community, international human rights organizations, fellow Southern Cameroonians, fellow Cameroonians, ladies and gentlemen. Article 114 of the Bill on Family Code, presently pending before the Senate in Cameroon, states that to be a Cameroonian, a citizen must either originate from the Republic of Cameroon, which attained its independence on the 1st of January 1960, or originate from the Southern Cameroons, which obtained its independence on the 1st of October 1961. Since 1961, Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon have been living together in a union about which nobody has ever cared to produce the legal foundation. In 1984, the Republic of Cameroon transformed the Southern Cameroons, which had the status of a federated state, into 2 provinces, Northwest and Southwest, which today are termed regions. In 2016, a civil war erupted between restoration forces in southern Cameroon, controlled and funded by an interim government of southern Cameroon in the diaspora and powerful southern Cameroonian warlords in the diaspora, and the Cameroon regular army, which claimed to be enforcing Cameroon's sovereignty, as Cameroon is one and indivisible. The restoration forces claim to be fighting to restore the statehood of Southern Cameroon. In the face of this civil war, a huge humanitarian calamity has ensured, with well over 500 villages burnt down, about 50,000 citizens either dead or missing, and well about 1 million Southern Cameroonians displaced as refugees scattered over Nigeria, in Southern Cameroonian bushes, in all countries in Africa, even in Europe, South America, and the United States, which just repatriated 81 of them. United Nations, the US, the European Union have time without number called on the government of Cameroon to address the root causes of this problem. But this government has maintained a deaf ear to those calls. Therefore, it's seeking a solution to this crisis to address the root causes of this crisis. Was there reunification in 1961 or annexation of Southern Cameroon by the Republic of Cameroon? After the 1961 11 February plebiscite, the United Nations General Assembly organized an independence vote for Southern Cameroon, wherein Article 2B recognized the independence of Southern Cameroon by joining the Republic of Cameroon. And Article 5 prescribed that the government of Southern Cameroon, the administering authority, Great Britain, and the Republic of Cameroon should come together as a matter of urgency before the 1st of October 1961 to agree as to how the parties were going to implement their agreed policies. The Republic of Cameroon, which never intended to sign any union treaty, instead invited the government of Southern Cameroon, led by Dr. John Foncha, to a constitutional conference in Fumban, where President Ahidjo asked Foncha to sign a draft federal constitution, which Foncha refused to sign and took it on consultation to the British, who called on Ahidjo to convene another meeting in Yaoundé. Thus, the Yaoundé Constitutional Conference, which ended in a deadlock, saw the British tell Amadou Ahidjo that the parties could not talk about a constitution when a union treaty had not been signed. While they were in Yaoundé, in the month of August, Ahidjo sent his draft constitution to his own parliament, the Parliament of the Republic of Cameroon, as a constitutional amendment, passed as the Federal Constitution of 1st September 1961, which Ahidjo promulgated into law on the 1st of September 1961, and on that same day marched his troops into Southern Cameroon. Thus, Southern Cameroon, which was the first African state to have a democratically elected government in history, found itself being sandwiched by a country that was required under Article 5 of Resolution 1608 to sign a union treaty as to how they were going to live together. Southern Cameroon found itself being downgraded by that country and put inside that country's constitution as a mere territory without a say, government, any institution. This is how Southern Cameroon found itself in the 1961 Federal Constitution, where Article 1 says that the Federal Republic of Cameroon shall be formed from the 1st of October 1961 by the Territorial Republic of Cameroon and the territory of Cameroon Meridional, formerly under British trusteeship. Cameroon Meridional simply means the southern part of Cameroon. You can see that this is a situation where one country, which was supposed to have an equal status with the other, decides to swallow up the other. The problem, therefore, is whether in 1961 there was reunification or annexation. As international law, this is a clear case of annexation. Nobody can talk about reunification because there is no document signed by Southern Cameroon to the effect that they agreed to enter the Federal Republic in a constitution solely drafted by the Republic of Cameroon. The international community has been surprisingly silent in front of this humanitarian calamity. So while the government of Cameroon and the restoration forces are trading responsibility, the situation on ground zero worsens daily. Last time it was Ngabu massacre claimed by the government. Today it is the Kumba massacre where 8 school children have been murdered in cold blood. This situation must end. We cannot continue to tolerate this. Now, consideration: the Republic of Cameroon recognizes the independence of Southern Cameroon, as just said. The second is that as a member state of the African Union, the Republic of Cameroon is bound by the Constitutive Act of the African Union, which states in Article 4B that all member countries recognize that their borders are those obtained upon independence. Again, as a member state of the UN, the Republic of Cameroon knows that its boundary is that which was obtained in 1960 when it got independence. So it is senseless and baseless for that war to continue when it is clear that the Republic of Cameroon has no right to sovereignty over Southern Cameroon, which has never given them such a right. Now, what is the way forward? In the present situation, the Republic of Cameroon and the representation of Southern Cameroon will be brought before internationally supervised negotiation table to sign the Union Treaty, which they ought to have signed in 1961. Failing which, the UN should organize a referendum in Southern Cameroon for the people to determine their future.
In a world where storytelling can never be overemphasized, we need historians like this to tell us more about the historicity. I believe Nijo is still here with us tonight and would like to react to the video you just watched.
Absolutely. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure.
Go ahead.
Beautiful.
Nijo, go ahead, please.
Thank you. This is the sort of stuff you can invite me anytime to come to talk on ABC, and I'll be happy to join you. This is a novel. This should become the mantra that is played hourly on ABC. If I were to recommend anything, I mean, this it's like a history, a novel that you can read through and get the facts. And all due respect to Barrister Ashu, this is one of the things that I find very difficult to comprehend. In every situation, a change situation, we know there are 3 groups of people. Paddy, you help me here. The first ones will be the champions, those of us who are advocating for this and pushing for this change. And then you have the cynics, those who are opposing the move. And of course, the fence-sitters who literally just feel they're happy, that you can swing either way. And the question I am asking every Ambazonian on the home front or in the diaspora, and in the diaspora, I ask this question 200 folds to them. If you know a bit, just 50% of what we just listened to, what on earth are you thinking? To be in the middle group or to be on the fence? How on earth can you follow this story and choose not to be a champion and choose not to push for this change? And this is my request. And if Comrade Paddy, you are the director of news, please do something with this excerpt that you've just played. I think we need to educate on the home front and in the diaspora, because for the good of me, I don't see who Ambazonia in the diaspora of all places listens to part of this story once a week or once a month and doesn't change. It's unbelievable. And I couldn't appreciate Barrister Ashu enough. But I'm happy to come to ABC in the morning, in the night, midnight, afternoon, to listen to clips like this and make a comment. Thank you for putting this together. But this is my request. If Comrade Paddy can do something, we need either to split this and keep playing it over and over for 5 minutes. I don't know how long it lasted, but please, we need Ambazonians, particularly those, in fact, all Ambazonians in the home front and in the diaspora should listen to this and listen again. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. Yeah, let me just add something to that, Nijo. Thank you for all the commendations, for the appreciations. You see those young ladies you're seeing in the studio, beautiful smiles, wonderful energies. I cannot exploit all the adjectives today, but I just tell you, they're making the inspiration happen. The important thing I want to add in this is, Barrister Ashu, as a legal mind, must also try to put some things contextually. There are words that in our discussion of today should not be used. Number one, it is not a civil war. A civil war means a war between people of the same country. No, we're fighting to kick out a belligerent occupation from our national territory. And that's where I thought that his expose was not very accurate. And these are some of the things when we've surpassed the stage whereby we dabbling. And that's why there was the news conference of last week, so that the diction, when it comes to debating your cause, either in court or on any platform, definition of words, employment of words is very necessary. Ambazonia has gone through the cycle for decades with Cameroon trying to force the narrative that we are part of them, trying to take us down to the German Cameroon. Now, we're not fighting, it's not a civil war. It is a conflict between two nations, like he rightly said. So it's contravening for him to describe it as a civil war, at the same time saying that we have international boundaries, quoting all the articles very effectively. It waters down the argument to narrow it down to a civil war. It is a conflict. It is a war of independence, to restore the independence that has been stolen. A war of occupation with French Cameroon forces invading a territory that did not have any legality over. That fact must be placed straight. I think that's one of the objectives the newsroom decided to bring up this. I just want to add something very quickly and then to stop there, because Comrade UN, I've read his letter to the criminals at the home front, that's Britain, France, and all of them. I've read it like 10 times, and I enjoy his audacity. And like the newsroom mentioned earlier on, Comrade UN is a passionate person, sometimes controversial with his opinion, has very strong opinion. But the important part about it is that he's passionate about what he's doing, and that letter was good. So we brought this so that we can have such an education. We do not just want to waste our time to debunk misinformation and disinformation, but also to give Amazonians the opportunity to be educated again. And we have to be vigilant with words, because if you allow Cameroon to sell the narrative in the international community of what is not supposed to be there, it makes our argument difficult. This is not a civil war. This is a genocide that a force of occupation is fighting in a strange land. So that's the fact of it. It's like America in Afghanistan. It's like Russia and Ukraine. That's the equivalent of this war. That's the minimum description that should be given to this war. Thank you very much, Onye and Star.
All right, thank you very much. Now we'll move on. It seems like there's Russia's position and it's creating panic. Now let's see what Russia's position is. La Republique du Cameroon is in trouble as Russia says conflict in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia will be resolved at the negotiating table.
They say diplomacy is a complex zone and is difficult to interpret, especially when friendship is solely based on interest. It requires technocrats and scientific involvement. There is a twist in the relationship between Russia and the Cameroons. A recent tweet from the Russian UN mission admits, following developments in Cameroon and that the conflict in the southern Cameroon's Amazonia didn't arise overnight. It is deeply rooted and a solution can only be found at the negotiating table while respecting human rights and the rule of law.
Revisiting La République du Cameroon signing an agreement last April 12, 2022 with Russia for military cooperation that raised a lot of eyebrows and controversy from very high diplomatic missions, especially France and Russia, blaming French Cameroon for aligning with Russia at the time of the latest invasion of Ukraine. An invasion that was, and still seriously, criticized by NATO and other world powers. As a matter of fact, France and the USA did not hide the agreement of such a move by Cameroon. At the time, several countries around the world withdrew ties with Kremlin to impose sanctions.
Their disagreements were not hidden at all. Against all odds, on the instructions of Cameroon's ailing monarch, Paul Biya, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, Colonial Defense Minister Joseph Betty Asomo, and his Russian counterparts, General Sergei Shoigu, appended the documents that defined this new military cooperation, in which they also agreed to exchange experiences and interaction in peace support operations under the aegis of the United Nations.
Worthy to note that during the UN General Assembly vote in February calling for the Russian withdrawal from Ukraine, La République du Cameroon was absent. And for the second vote, La République du Cameroon abstained. Now, these actions by colonial La République du Cameroon made many to believe, and truly too, that as an accomplice, she could not vote against Russia, but would rather support Russia to erase Ukraine as the colonial La République du Cameroon regime was erasing southern Cameroon's Amazonia.
So many saw this deal and were only expecting Russian troops to invade Amazonia in favor of the genocidal La République du Cameroon, erase it and leave Amazonia only as a geographical expression for posterity. Some have seen this tweet as a welcome announcement, even though the agenda of Russia to facilitate the oppressor La République du Cameroon and the oppressed Amazonia go to the Swiss-led process to earn the war remain unclear, yet very hopeful for Amazonians who are more than ever before determined to regain their freedom, come rain, come sun, under the interim government and its indefatigable focus leader, President Samuel Ikome Sako.
Oh yes, and truly I'm sure that Niger and Mr. Tar has something to say from this. Now this sounds like good news. What do you think, Niger? Are you still there?
I am. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. One of the first things I said in here, on your platform this evening, was that it's home for roast. Okay, that chickens are coming home to roast. When even your friends start telling you, oh yeah, there's something wrong with the decisions you're making, I think you need to take a step back and ask yourself one or two questions. Now, we've followed the clips you just read there, and that pushes our old neighbor to a far corner, because this is like a desperate dive where you're sinking and you see a sailpan and you cling onto it, and before you realize, you and the sailpan are sinking. Because for Russia to have altered these words means it's the end of the tunnel. Is the end for La République. I mean, what else do they say? Look at the time they were clinging onto Russia, at the time when everyone was, staying away from Russia. They clung onto Russia, and now Russia's turned around and said, "Oh, your fingers are stinking. You have to cut your talons before you can hold my hand," or something like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pity that we have a neighboring country that feels that they can continue to pretend and hope that everybody is going to see what they're seeing. The darkness that is in front of them, they want you to see that this is white. The heat that is on them, they want you to feel that they're very comfortable. These guys are struggling. One of the things I sympathize with our coup plotters, if you know what I mean about coup plotters, is this La République has been planning for this, or they had this under their control for 50 years, and it's gone off hands. It's gone off hands. If we listen to Barrister there and the facts that he put, I appreciate that Comrade Paddy was concerned with some of the words. But one of the things I would appeal on Comrade Paddy to lower his blame or concern is that when you teach an infant, because what we're trying to do here is to use those clips to educate people about a plant. If it's a 3-year-old, they know it's a plant. They don't know what, they can differentiate the leaf and the stem and the root of the plant, but they can't tell you, oh, the root is there to hold the plant firm on the ground and get some water, and the leaves are there to get some sun, and so they can make some food. It's when they get older, you can begin to differentiate that. I think what ABC needs to be doing is use those clips, let the idea go out that this is all of what has been going on is wrong, and then we can go into the little nitty-gritties and say, oh, this date that you mentioned at this time. If somebody has a picture in their mind, then you can differentiate and say, instead of saying civil war, we can say this. Instead of taking all of this as the plan, this is the leaves, this is the stem, this is the root. We go gradually. As an educationist, the best way to do your teaching is to go gradually. So let us start with this, get the people on board, let them listen to it. I think that any conscious Ambazonia who listens to this a couple of times, I bet you they're going to change their wing. They're going to move either away from a fence sitter onto the scenic route to the middle, or they're going to join us as champions. So please, Comrade Paddy, lower your concerns and consider sharing this as often as possible. And as far as our coup plotters are concerned, as I was going to mention, is that there seem to be some similarity in their deceit mentality. One of the mentality that's trying to share around now is they're going to place fighters on monthly wages. And I was just going to use the analogy that La République du Cameroon had been planning for this moment for 50 years. It's come to the point where they cannot pay their military. And you're telling me coup plotters who stole money from the IG, they haven't even had their hands on the money, they can place 100 ARFs on a monthly stipend, or let's call it a wages, as they've said. This is the information they are giving ARFs. And I tell you what, it's a matter of time, because we are in May. If by end of May, these stories still hold on, and these boys don't get the money, by end of June, they don't get the money, by end of July, we will be back here discussing that, oh, the coup plotters promised the ARFs a salary and they've not been able to pay. That would be the same scenario where La République now has their army in Ambazonia fighting, and these guys are starving. They can't be paid. But this is a war that they have been planning. And you get coup plotters who just took an opportunity and got on and stole money, and they haven't had control of this money, but they're already budgeting it. It's a fiasco. It's people who don't see beyond their nose, as we say in my dialect, because they think like chicken. Sorry for using that expression, but this is, if you follow some of the outings that I've heard, that you're going to place in a movement or in a revolution as that of Ambazonia with no budget, and an interim government that has no budget, no income. People are volunteering to sponsor this, and you're promising fighters that you're going to put them on a wage when you yourself, well, unless they are on a wage, I don't see how you would be paying someone else when you're not on a wage on the same platform. I don't understand this. So it's a matter of time, and all of these things will come to pass. They're all struggling. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank
All
you.
right. From Nijo, I understand that in as much as this little nitty-gritties should not be overlooked, we should not also overlook the central idea of a discussion. Thank you so much, Nijo. It's always enlightening hearing from you. And this one is to Mr. Tar. Amid these critical gains for Ambazonia, we have individuals like Honorable Joseph Werba campaigning for an alternative platform other than the interim government. Do you think that that is what Ambazonians need for negotiations?
I will hasten to tell you that Honorable Joseph Weber is confused. Forgive me. I want to say that there is no need calling him honorable. Where is he honorable in? In La République du Cameroon or in Amazonia? If we have honorables in the interim House of Representatives, and I don't find Joseph Weber, Mr. Joseph Weber there, he's not therefore an honorable in Amazonia. Weber is coming from a political background that is self-centered, vicious, that's a betraying background, that's the SDF. And he's a man with a large ego. I want to just give you a little bit of history. When he mounted courage in the parliament in Cameroon, that was laudable to speak in the heart of Cameroon. But we thought initially he was a patriot, he was somebody, but it was just for political gain. It was not different from what Frundi did in the 90s and in 1992. It was about gaining grounds within Cameroonian political setup. And even within the SDF, he already started having issues with Frundi in the same party. So you saw a man who had a political agenda and took advantage of a youthful generation that decided to protest. Now, Weaver has come to the diaspora and has not sought asylum. Most of us in the diaspora are political asylees or refugees. Now, your argument, for instance, should say what you are. Weaver has taken asylum as a politician in Cameroon, not even in the Cameroons. So Weber still calls the former British Southern Cameroons, today Amazonia, West Cameroon. He hardly uses the word Amazonia. So will you find Weber coming up and having crusade from one place? I understand that they will be in the La République sponsored channel this evening. Now, you find out that Weber is coming to promote a one Cameroon agenda, because that is what the council is all about. The argument was exhausted last week by Barrister Ghana, Pa Augustine Dangam, and all the speakers of last week. Do we have a council or do we have an interim government? It is foolishness. There are two things involved. It is either ignorance or arrogance. And arrogance has to do with hypocrisy. The ignorance is the fact that you are not aware, which I think Weber is aware, that Ambazonia had a nation. And Ambazonia is not trying to belong in a union that has failed. Ambazonia is not trying to belong in a setup after they have been annexed. Barrister Ashu just told us Ambazonia has been annexed, and that's a fact. It's recorded. There is no treaty of union between the two nations. And this was, Ambazonia conducted the first nation in Africa that conducted a democratic elections, not as a council. We have all the council, GovC, all the councils left and right. These individuals are not tired of councils. Now, what Weber is trying to do is that, hey, listen, I am a Weber. Someday I stood up in Yaoundé, I need some relevance. And then you have disgruntled, failed individuals coming together, rallying behind him, trying to preach an agenda. I feel so sorry for youths like Mark Barata that should have the courtesy and to understand that it is a fallacy, it is stupidity for a youth that is still young with an active brain that should understand the history and remind all demented Confucianists when they are making errors. And it's so sad to find youths like Mark Barata trying to support A fetish idea, foolish idea. So there's really not much to talk about Weber. It's a failed idea. It has failed before. It's going to fail forever. They will not succeed because this generation of Amazonians are more enlightened. So I think we should just brush it away, chew it, and spit it out. It's a bubble gum that has lost its taste, and let's continue with the nose.
The never again generation of Ambazonia, always making things like this dead on arrival. We'll move on with the news now. According to Makati News, of the 40 bike riders arrested in Ndop, 24 arrives Bamenda prison.
Now, this is shocking and extremely heartbreaking. Now, let's get into the details. 24 motorbike riders out of the 40 intercepted and arrested in Ndop by government forces who were on their way to Oku, Bui County to bury one of theirs have been remanded at the Bamenda Central Prison. The 24 motor riders, who looked fragile at the time of arrival at the prison yard on Tuesday, May 17, 2022 at 7 p.m., were brought by gendarme officers. Some were offered bread by warders who were on duty that night, while others fought for water.
Can you imagine, Onyi? They had been at the military court all day before their remand. Our source had hinted us that the boys had been detained at army camps in Mezam and others at Gendarmerie Legion Op Station before their movements to the military court on Tuesday, May 17th. Though Makati News could not actually get the charges levied against the riders, our sources say the charges are crimes related to the so-called separatist activists, which falls under the anti-terrorism law in the colonial Cameroon Penal Code.
Now, in the days ahead, the riders will be presented in front of the magistrate at the military court for cross-examination before being sent to the open court for hearing, if actually they are found guilty. Those not found guilty of the charges may be released. Uncertainty looms in the air over the whereabouts of the remaining 16 of the 40 motorbike riders, which the media had reported that they were all arrested in Ndop, their bikes seized, and they were taken to different security posts in Mezam.
According to Makati News, the 40 bike riders reported to have been intercepted and arrested by government forces a few weeks back in Ndop, were accompanying a convoy to Oku in Buye Division to bury one motorbike rider who was shot and killed, then dumped at a stream at Ntassen alongside another unidentified victim. Accusing fingers were on government forces on the killings. Human rights groups had been calling on the colonial authorities of the Midland zones to show proof of the bike riders in their keeping and ensure justice is done.
Now, this is so disheartening. Now, let's get to find out what's happening in the world, because U.S. has threatened China.
Biden vows to defend Taiwan in apparent U.S. policy shift. U.S. threatens China. Biden vows to defend Taiwan in apparent U.S. policy shift. This is serious. Only this could just be power mongering and tussling right there. The question would be, how many battles will the U.S. fight?
U.S. President Joe Biden has warned China, and he said China is flirting with danger over Taiwan and vowed to intervene militarily to protect the island if it is attacked. Speaking in China, he appeared to contradict long-standing U.S. policy in the region, although the White House insisted that there had been no departure. Mr. Biden drew a parallel between Taiwan and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, prompting an angry rebuke from Beijing.
He is on his first tour of Asia as U.S. President, visiting regional allies. Mr. Biden prefaced his remarks saying U.S. policy towards Taiwan has not changed. But his comments in Tokyo are the second time in recent months he has unequivocally stated the U.S. would defend Taiwan if China attacked. In what has been seen as a change in tone, China regards Taiwan as a breakaway province that must be reunified with the mainland.
Belgium's Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin insisted, and I quote, "Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. There is no room for compromise or concession." The Taiwan question and the UN and the Ukraine issue are fundamentally different. To compare these two is absurd. We once again urge the U.S. to abide by the One China principle. The U.S. has no official diplomatic ties with Taiwan but sells arms to it as part of its Taiwan Relations Act, which states that as the U.S. must provide the island with the means to defend itself. At the same time, it maintains formal ties with China and also diplomatically acknowledges China's position that there is only one Chinese government.
What did Biden say, and why does it matter? Mr. Biden was answering questions in Tokyo during a press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida when a journalist asked them about the defense of Taiwan. The U.S. president began by directly linking the China-Taiwan situation to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. If there was a rapprochement eventually between Ukraine and Russia, and sanctions were not sustained, then what does this signal to China about the cost of attempting to take Taiwan by force, he asked. They are already flirting with danger right now by flying so close and all the maneuvers that they are undertaking, Mr. Biden said, referring to increasing reports of Chinese warplane incursions into Taiwan's self-declared air defense zone.
Now he added that while my expectation is that a Chinese invasion will not happen, it should not be attempted. At the same time, it depended on how strong the word makes clear that the kind of action is going to result in a long-term disprobation. He was then asked directly if the U.S. would defend Taiwan militarily if China invaded, when it has not done so in the invasion of Ukraine, and he responded, yes, that's the commitment we made. Now the response continues. The idea that Taiwan, can be taken by force is just not appropriate. It will dislocate the entire region and be another action similar to what happened in Ukraine.
It took the U.S. State Department only minutes to start walking back Joe Biden's comments. This is not the first time he has said he would defend Taiwan. It could be an expression of his deep personal disquiet about the Ukraine invasion and the prospect of something similar happening in Taiwan. In March, he did something very similar when he said Vladimir Putin cannot stay in power, forcing U.S. officials to swiftly deny America was calling for regime change in Moscow. But when asked about it later, Mr. Biden did not back down. He said, expressing his moral outrage at what Putin was doing. Today he seemed to be saying, I won't let that happen to Taiwan. The official position of the U.S. government on Taiwan is strategic ambiguity. The U.S. doesn't commit to defend Taiwan, but it doesn't say it wouldn't either. This is supposed to keep China guessing. But as China has got stronger and its threats to Taiwan more real, there have been voices calling for an end to this fudge. Former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe recently said it was time for America to be clear to Beijing and say it would defend Taiwan. Others think this is a really bad idea and could provoke Beijing into accelerating its plans to retake the island. Privately, many senior officials in Washington and Tokyo are extremely worried about Taiwan, about Beijing's growing military advantage, and they are fumbling for a new strategy to deal with the threat. In the meantime, Mr. Biden seems to be speaking his own truth.
Let's look at what is happening in Africa. In East Africa, Ethiopia arrests thousands, including ex-army commanders. Authorities in Ethiopia's northern Amhara region say they have arrested more than 4,000 500 individuals, including a former army commander. The arrests are said to be part of an operation to enforce law and order. That was announced last week. The Region Security Office head, Desalen Tasu, has told state-run media outlets on Monday that those arrested were suspected of spreading lawlessness. Among them is Brigadier General Tafera Mamo, a former commander of the Amhara Special Forces, allied with the army in the fight against Tijayan forces. He has been critical of the government after he was removed from his position in February.
At least 5 journalists were also arrested in the region, with 2 other television commentators critical of the government detained in the capital Addis Ababa. Critics have said the arrests are attempts to silence dissenting voices. The government-affiliated Ethiopian Human Rights Commission (EHRC) says many of the arrests were carried out without proper court warrants and that many of the detainees have not been visited by family members. The arrests have coincided with efforts by the Amhara region to register private firearms, something opponents say is an attempt to disarm the Fano, a collection of loosely organized youth groups.
The Fano groups have also fought alongside the army against the Tijarians in the civil war, in which they were implicated in gross rights abuses, particularly in West Tigray. Clashes were reported between government security forces and the youth groups last week in multiple places. Let's watch this video on cholera, and right after that, Stay Smart will bring us the editorial.
Just now we get some sick way they call and say cholera. This cholera na some sick way people when they get them they shit plenty, shit for inside 1 hour. If you shit like 20 times, they vomit too. And when you get this shit plenty, where you need to put water for your skin, you feel easily dry off. It don't show say this cholera. It be first start for Bakassi for Ekondo Titi 2-3 months ago, but just now it don't reach for Edinal last week, and 2-3 days ago it don't reach for Boya. For people that dey around Boya, this cholera it dey plenty. It don't show for lab say the cholera it did, because we don't send 6 samples for La Cantine, made a check them, it don't come back say 3 be positive, and 1 sample for cholera it be in an outbreak. So it don't show say many people where they get cholera they come out from my 16. Some place where they call and say Q3 and Q5, and that people there they around Dongo water, they around Amen water. So with the talk say all my way they around my 16, my 17, my 15, Munya area and around Park and that market where they for them, may they be careful, because cholera it dey plenty for them. Any person where it is shit, rush quickly go for hospital. If you go for hospital where they for corner your house, even at around my 16, that health center there for day. But the bigger hospital where it treat all man for cholera, it didn't for regional hospital. Cholera treatment it be free. No man they pay no nothing. So they go give you chop where you go chop for day, so that mean you know come out say you want go find chop, you go really give cholera for other person where you want go buy bread. You know what you want go buy drip, you want go buy canola. All thing for cholera it be free. Government don't provide that, it be free. And with the call say any man where he get shit, he rush straight for hospital. In 2 weeks time we'll also get vaccine where it help people where people may they not get cholera. So when that time will reach, people they may they take their vaccine for cholera. That vaccine for cholera they drop them for mouth, they need to choke them for injection. So me some man no confuse saying that vaccine for cholera where they want get for other thing. The vaccine for cholera they drop them for mouth. After 4 weeks they drop another one. The other vaccine them they choke them. So
editorial of today, we get right back into the historical timelines. As you already know, it is important for us to always say this. In a world where storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians have got to tell their own story accurately. It starts with getting historical facts straight. And we would like to appreciate Ambazonians generally, ABC Amba TV club members especially, ABC Amba TV board members particularly, for ensuring that this platform stays alive, and above all, the President of Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, for his vision to the nation of Ambazonia. Let me take down memory lane as we make progress before this day. We had a walk through pre-1858 Amber's Bay before the arrival of the Europeans. 1858, the city of Victoria established by Alfred Saker. 1884, establishment of the Ambers Bay Protectorate. 1887, the Ambers Bay Protectorate ceded to Germany. 1916, Britain and France occupied German Cameroon. In 1919, German Cameroon divided at the Versailles Treaty. We moved into 1922, the Cameroons became a League of Nations mandate. Fast forwarded in 1946, we examined how the Southern Cameroons became a UN Trust territory, and ended 1954 when the Southern Cameroons attained self-rule in Boya. We have discussed the 1959 free and fair elections held in the Southern Cameroons. We got into 1960 Southern Cameroons leaders visited the UK and the UN. We also went into 1961 UN plebiscite votes held in the Southern Cameroons. We talked about 1961 independence to the Southern Cameroons. We examined 1961 independence to the Southern Cameroons. We went further into 1965, His Excellency Bobe Augustin Ngomjua becomes the Prime Minister, and came through into 1968, Honorable Solomon Tandeng Muna becomes Prime Minister, and finally into 1972, the state of the Southern Cameroons abolished. We entered into 1973, Honorable Solomon Tandeng Muna made Speaker of Parliament. We also examined 1984, Biya unilaterally changed the name of the country. And finally, into 1984 again, Amazonian Restoration Council demands end to union. Then right into 1993, All Anglophone Conference 1, AAC 1 holds in Boya. We entered in 1994, the All Anglophone Conference 2 holds at Bamenda. Also into 1994, the Southern Cameroons National Council was created. Before the news conference, we explained 1999, Justice Frederick Alobode and PNC chairman. Today we get into 2003, Cameroon sued at the ACPHR in Banjul. Today is a case that was filed before the Africa Court on Humans and People's Rights on January 9, 2003 by representatives of the Southern Cameroons National Council, SCNC, and Southern Cameroons People Organization, SCAPO. Acting on their personal behalf and on the behalf of the Southern Cameroon, the plaintiffs who filed the case were the following: Dr. Kevin Ngwangume, Mr. Augustine Faye Ndangam, Dr. Martin Ngeka Luma, deceased, Chief Ayamba Ete Otun, deceased, Mr. Mfo Ngala Mfo, Mr. Humphrey Mbingolo, Mr. Albert Woma Munkong, deceased, Isaac M. Sona, Dr. Emil Mondua, Dr. Tayoba Ngenge, Dr. Stephen Shemlon, Dr. Martin Ayim, Dr. J. Asongu, Mrs. Regina Mankefo, deceased, Miss Melissa Nambangi, Mr. Andrew Edimo, Mr. Tum Tafon, Mr. Dennis Atemge. The complainants were represented by Professor Carlson Anyangwe and the law firm of Akinlawon and Ajomo of Lagos, Nigeria. The complaint recites that La Republic du Cameroon is guilty of violating the rights of hundreds of citizens of the Southern Cameroons and the collective rights of the people of the Southern Cameroons. 2009, the ACPHR rules on the case against Cameroon. In May 2009, the African Court of Peoples and Human Rights, ACPHR, ruled on the case against the Republic of Cameroon brought by SCAPO, the SCNC, and 14 Southern Cameroon nationalists based subjugation, domination, and exploitation of our people by the Republic of Cameroon. After reviewing the case, the African Commission concluded that the people of Southern Cameroon qualify to be referred to as a people because they manifest numerous characteristics and affinities which include a common history, linguistic tradition, territorial connection, and political outlook. More importantly, they identify themselves as a people with a separate and distinct identity. Identity is an innate characteristic within a people. It is up to other external people to recognize such existence, but not to deny it. 2013, Dr. Umfo Ngala Umfo elected chairman of the SCNC. After the death of Chief Etung Ayamba, the SCNC elects Dr. Umfo Ngala Umfo as the new chairman of the Southern Cameroon's National Council. A stuck Southern Cameroon Ambazonia nationalist, arrested and locked up dozens of times, the colonial regime, Dr. Umfo Ngala Umfo carried out many trips abroad on a diplomatic offensive, including trips to Geneva, London, New York, and other capitals, where he advocated for the unconditional restoration of Ambazonians' independence. Adopting the motto, the force of argument and not the argument of force, he was amongst the Nera 10 abducted with Sissoco Julius Ayuk Tabe and serving a life sentence in Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé. This is where we end the historical timelines recount for today. As you already know, our objective is to establish with clarity some of these historical facts by giving Ambazonians sufficient reasons why they must not perish because they lack knowledge and or understanding, and also why they must believe in the liberation movement. But before then, as always, we want to thank our editor-in-chief and news director, Third Party King, for putting these historical facts together for your enjoyment. But before then, as always, we want to thank our editor-in-chief and news director, Third Party King, for putting together these historical details for your enjoyment. Do you want more of this? Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com for more. I am Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amber News.
And now let's bring you sports. Manchester City retained their Premier League in the extraordinary circumstances after coming from 2 goals down to beat Aston Villa 3-2 at the Etihad Stadium.
3 goals in 5 minutes late in the game turned the match and the title race on its head as substitute Lekay Gundogan scored 2 either sides of Rodri's strike. Liverpool's late win over Wolves meant that only victory would have been enough for City.
Gab Ellison has more.
As always.
It was an extraordinary way to do it. Almost as remarkable in its own way as events a decade ago when Sergio Aguero won the title in stoppage time. Man City had looked a beaten side when Felipe Coutinho added to Matty Cash's opener midway through the second half. Aston Villa boss Steven Gerrard was set to add to his Anfield legend. Instead, amid a raucous atmosphere at the Etihad, it was Pep Guardiola and his players celebrating ecstatically upon the final whistle. Twists and turns had been expected, but surely not this. How Man City sealed the title in astonishing fashion. There had been nerves beforehand, of course memory still fresh of the final day drama against Queen's Park Rangers 1 decade ago when the routine win required turned out to be anything but. And so it proved again on a day that confounded expectations. The first news was positive for City as Wolves took an early lead at Anfield, where Liverpool needed victory to snaffle top spot from City's grasp. It sparked wild celebrations, adding to an already raucous atmosphere, but the home side simply forgot to play. They mustered only 1 shot on target in the first half and were punished by a sleek Villa move that was started by Jacob Ramsey and finished by the head of Cash, with Lucadinha providing the left wing cross that left much of the Etihad Stadium in stunned silence. The anxiety in the stands were palpable thereafter, and the response from City did not come immediately. Oli Watkins and Coutinho having presentable opportunities to double the advantage, with Liverpool having equalized the title was in the balance. The introduction of Alexander Zinchenko for Fernandinho helped City look more fluid in the second half, and the impetus was with them from the outset, but the chances were missed. Kevin De Bruyne blazed over. Gabriel Jesus spooned his shot, went just yards out. The clock was ticking, the tension rising, and then came the soccer punch, a long ball and a moment of magic from Coutinho, dragging the ball one way and then reversing the shot behind his compatriot Ederson. To leave everyone in shock, City were bereft. Remarkably, with Wolves still holding Liverpool, they were still on course to be champions on goal difference, but that was not the mood at the Etihad until Gundogan altered the atmosphere in an instant. The substitute headed in and the game turned. With Villa rocking now, the ball fell to Rodri on the edge of the box and he passed the ball into the net from distance to draw level. Suddenly, it was one goal required to render events at Anfield redundant, and the momentum felt irresistible once more. De Bruyne found space in the right channel and his low cross found the man Gundogan at the far post to send the supporters at the Etihad Stadium into ecstasy. It was an inspired final substitution by Guardiola with Jack Grealish left on the bench. It changed the game. It changed the title race. Mohamed Salah and Andy Robertson late goals for Liverpool meant that there was still no margin for error, but City were not going to make the same mistake, shutting down the game sensibly for the remaining moments as the relief began to pour down from the stands. The supporters followed, rushing the pitch upon the final whistle, another unforgettable afternoon for the supporters of a club that only seems to do something dramatic. Analysis: Pep's most magical moment? It seems strange to cite an occasion when Manchester City almost blew the title as Pep Guardiola's greatest moment as their manager, for all the wonderful football, for all the dominance that has led to 4 Premier League titles in 5 seasons. This was different. It was magical, and Guardiola had perhaps sensed it beforehand. His program notes alluded to those memorable moments of the past, perhaps craving one of his own. How many times in our more than 100 years of history have we lived what we are going to live this afternoon together? How many? At Brighton 3 years ago, the historical Segur 93-20 moment, Paul Dickow at Wembley in 99. Yes, a few times in our lives, this was something of that ilk, even ending in the same 3-2 result that did for QPR in such crazy circumstances inside the same stadium 1 decade ago. A football club is the sum of the stories it tells about itself. These will go down in lore, adding to the belief that anything is possible. They will talk about it, write about it, sing about it. Guardiola's team has done many things. It had never before done this. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that sports report, we've come to the end of tonight's Undaunted. Last week for Ambazonia, history was made as Ambazonia researchers, historians, and patriots examined it with the international community with clarity and specificity like never before. La République du Cameroon in trouble as Russia says conflict in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia will be resolved at the negotiating table. Of the 40 bike riders arrested in Ndop, 24 arrives Bamenda prison. Activist UN cautions La République du Cameroon in an article he captions, "My sincere advice to Britain, France and La République du Cameroon regarding southern Cameroon's Ambazonia." Former Secretary of State for Communications and IT Chris Anu lies as always on camera as he begs funds from Ambazonia to pay his lawyers with a pretext of raising funds for ABS, and his then deputy Ngwambe advises Ambazonia to become another South Sudan post-independence. Shocking. US President Joe Biden has warned China is flirting with danger over Taiwan and vowed to intervene militarily to protect the island if it is attacked. Ethiopia arrests thousands, including ex-army commanders. Manchester City retained their Premier League in extraordinary circumstances after coming from 2 goals down to beat Aston Villa 3-2 at the Etihad Stadium. That was tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Onyi Okpala and the entire Undaunted crew, I wish to thank you for tuning in. I am Star Smart. We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Stay tuned and have a blessed night.